Hello everybody, my name is Calgon3639. Welcome to me just narrating over a battle kind of thing. This is on Dueling Nexus. It's a ranked match. In today's video will be Infernoble Knights versus the Invoked Dogmatika deck. Two up-and-coming meta decks. You know, the Dinosaurs and Dragon Links are the current meta, but Infernoble Knights and Invoked Dogmatika is getting up there. I'm the one controlling the Infernoble Knights. That's why you can see my hand for Infernoble Knights. My opponent is controlling the Invoked Dogmatika. I actually have some experience with Invoked Dogmatika since I have a friend who uses it and he usually kicks my ass, but in this one it was way more competitive. Maybe because I versed the deck so much, I just knew what's going to happen and stuff. So here he activates a Nader's Servant to send at I forgot what her name was. It's a level 4. It's I don't even know how to pronounce that, to be honest with you. So he's going to activate her effect to add Dogmenta Punishment. So yeah, I had some experience, and then usually these decks can really go at it. I really like when they verse each other. So yeah. And then he's going to summon Maximus, which makes us send 2 cards from each of our extra decks, and I think he gets to add a card if he does. So he ends up sending 2 Shadals. I end up sending Captain Royland and Herald of the Arclight. I sent Royland just because he can activate from he can equip himself from the grave anyway, so it's nice to have. And then he adds Schism, and then he discards Schism, which I found to be surprising. I thought he would be setting that to get Wind onto the field, but he ended up discarding it. Yeah, so then he sets 2, and then he passes, and then activates the dragon in the graveyard to add Fleur de Lis from his deck. Yeah, that was correct about that. And then I go into my turn, I ended up drawing Drundle. So here I was just like, I can't really go into any combos. Drawing Gimba in this deck was really not what you want, but in this first match it actually ended up benefiting me. And the good thing about Drundle, it can be equipped to any card, so I don't even need a monster to be on the field to activate the effect. And then here I was thinking about adding Super Quantum Red Layer just to get that special summon, but I do end up adding in the Infernoble Knight Renaud to get the combo play with Ogier, which I have in my hand. And then I'm going to normal summon Renaud, or not Renaud, Ogier, and then get its effect discard. Now here I knew he had some response. That's the thing with Dueling Nexus, you kind of know if your opponent has a response with this waiting for opponent effect. But he decides not to respond. I send Immortal Gearfield to the graveyard, and then I special summon Renaud to try to add Gearfield back. He was thinking about it, but he eventually let me add Gearfield to the hand, which is one of those things I think he probably could have negated. But he did not, so I ended up keying Gearfield to the hand anyways. So here I was thinking about going to the Ignoble Knight, but then I remembered I activated Trundle already. So I went into the 2 Tails of the Noble Knight, and then I activated its top effect to add a card from the hand, which he thinks about it, but eventually he does let me go through with it. And then I add a Spell Striker. Even though I can't use it, it's usually used in the Tatsunaku play in this deck. Then I activate its bottom effect to send 2 equip cards to special summon a level 2. But here he actually negates it. He summoned Flirtus to make sure I don't get that effect. I was thinking, damn, well that kind of screws me, which it actually doesn't, because I actually have Fireflint Lady and Gimba in the hand. So I ended up getting those. I can get those out anyways. But here I activate. Thinking about activating Triple Tactics, and I kind of look at who would I take, because I wasn't really thinking about drawing. I was like, maybe Hand Destruction to see, but so I do activate it, and then I think, do I Hand Destruction or take Control? I was like, I'm not going to draw 2, so I actually then started going through the monsters, and I start to take Control. I select take Control, and then he has some kind of thing to negate it, but he doesn't negate it. And then I take Fleur de Lis to mine. And then here I was like, well, I still don't have the tuner. And then I was like, wait, I have Fireflint and Ginba. I'm going to activate Fireflint, make sure he gets out into the field. He has some sort of response, but he does let it go through. Get Fireflint out into the field. And then I end up activating her effect to try to get Gimba out into the field, which he does let through. So I get Gimba. So basically, I'm negating 2 tails was kind of worthless because I ended up getting the tuner I needed out into the field anyways. And then I went into a Link Ross play to get the 2 tokens to start going into the more combos. And then I got, if it let me, I got the 1 and then 2. And then he has some negation. I was like, okay, I gotta kind of be careful here. I was thinking Nibiru, but then when I got Link Ross, I was like, why didn't he Nibiru then? So I was like, okay, it can't be Nibiru. It has to be something else. And then I try to add, I activated a Metal Marsher, which he does not let go through. His was punishment. So he's gonna target Martial Metal Marsher to get him off the field. I still get the effect, so Gimba eventually still comes out onto the field. But I ended him getting rid of Tin Metal Marsher prevents me going into the Mecha Phantom Beast, Doradon, a Link monster. I can't use him, and then he ends up adding Schism back from his graveyard. But from here now I'm like, okay, what do I do? I start thinking. This is where I actually like kind of stopped playing for 30 seconds because I was thinking. I was like, okay, what do I do from here? Do I do go into the Kriston Halifax? Like, okay, let's get into the Kriston Halifax. Let's get Plague Spreader out. And then I'm like, okay, now what? And then I was like, oh, I can go into an Access Code Talker now. But I was like, do I want to leave that token onto the field? Do I summon Tatsunaku? And then go into the Access Code Talker. And then I was also thinking, damn, I wish Floridas was a lower level than 8. So I was kind of thinking, I was like, okay, I gotta get rid of this token, make sure he doesn't use it somehow to his advantage. So I was like, I guess I'll go into Tatsunaku. But I was thinking future ahead. I was like, how am I going to get Access Code Talker later down into the future as well? So I end up playing Tatsunaku here. It just takes me a while because I'm still trying to think of all my possibilities. And I'm still thinking of the Access Code Talker. Do I go into the Access Code Talker now? But I was like, that token's getting left onto the field though. So I do eventually go into the Tatsunaku. And then instead of going to the Access Code Talker, I saw I can go into Coral Dragon. I was like, cool. As long as he gets sent from the field to the grave, I get to draw. So I was like, I'll go into a Coral Dragon with the Spell Striker in my hand to get into Coral Dragon. And then I was like, wait, I can activate? And then I was like, oh, I can just target 1 card and destroy it. So I ended up going, so I do activate it before I go into the Access Code Talker. I send Ashful to the grave to target. I ended up targeting the backfield, which ended up being pretty good because it was Cosmic Cyclone, and especially in the Infernoble Knights, a lot of quit spells are in there, so that was a nice destroy from my part. Then I get Access Code Talker, and then of course activate him to give him 2,000 more attack. Now that quick chain thing was supposed to be Coral Dragon. I ended up saying no because I thought it was Royland, so I didn't get the draw there. But I do end up special summoning Mortal Gear Field by banishing Drundle. And then I equipped Ogier. I equipped Royland. Which, there we go. And then I get into I banish 2 to get Divine Sword in my hand. And then I do end up equipping Divine Sword into a Mortal Gear Field. And now I'm like, okay, let's go into the battle phase. And this is where he gives up. Apparently he had nothing in his hand. I'm like, alrighty. So yeah, that was a pretty good play for me. I was able to get more. I was able to get 43 offs onto him. So it was a pretty nice play. And I guess he had nothing in his hand, so he decided to give up. And considering that he went first, it was kind of surprising that he actually lost that first match. When he won the rock, paper, scissors, I was like, damn, I can't win this match anymore, because the meta's kind of thing is like whoever goes first basically wins the match. But in this case, that wasn't the case. Now in the second match, I actually ended up drawing a really bad hand. There was really no combos I can do into my next hand. I did end up drawing Ash. I tried ashing the Mystical Meltdown, or Magical Meltdown, my bad. but he ends up negating the Ash with a frame gear. So me having a garbage hand really didn't help me whatsoever. So he was able to get all his combos out into the field. And then I'm always like, oh no, my friend always have done this to me, so I'm like, oh, here comes everything, and then he's gonna get Winda into the field when I get mine. He ended up going into the Psych Frame Lord Omega since he did get the frame gear out in his turn. I think he was hoping for a hand trap. I was like, there's nothing in my hand anyways. So then he actually discarded a card that actually could have helped me on my next turn. I was kind of hoping maybe he just banished Plague Spreader. That would help me more. And then he, of course, activate Alistair, add the invocation, then went to the Salmon Great Link monsters. And then, sorry about me not like commentating as much on the Invoked Dogmatika, because I do know the deck, but I don't know it too well as I know with the Infernoble Knights. So you activate Invocation to get Mechaba into the field. And then after that, he gets, I forgot what else he does. Then he goes into a Nader Servant, adds the level 4 bitch Esquilia, I think it's how you pronounce that. He ends up discarding El Shadal. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but he does add Esquilia, and then he's going to special Esquilia since he has the extra deck monster in his hand. And then I just view his graveyard to see. He sent into Shadal Schism, and then he, for that effect, and then he special summons Esquilia. He decides to go in defense position with it, and then he activates to add a Dogmatika card, and then he goes with Maximus. And then he went to an Upstart, which kind of surprised me. I was like, why is he controlling Upstart? But then I was like, makes your deck into a 39 card deck, so that's actually pretty good. And then he used the Invocation to add Alistair back into his hand, and then shuffled Invocation back into his deck. And then he summons Maximus, which I was like, okay, here we go again. I ended up sending the same cards, Captain Royland and Herald of the Arclight. I actually have Herald in the Arclight just because we can summon it, but I usually don't pull it out as much. But I do just end up sending Royland and Herald of the Arclight to the grave. And then he activates El Shadal Construct to get Schism back into his hand. And then I'm like, oh, here we go. He has Schism back into his hand. I'm screwed, kind of thing. And then he's, of course, sets, which ends probably going to be the Schism. And then I was like, okay, here's Punishment, here's Schism. Just because I versed the deck so much, I kind of know what their set cards are going to be. And then you activate that dragon from the graveyard again to add Flirtus. And then during my turn, I'm like, oh man, this is really not a good hand. I was like, let's see what I can do. So I end up going in to view my graveyard. I was like, there's really nothing there, so I'm not going to activate the equipped card. So I ended up I was seeing Plague. I was like, why is this in my hand right now? So I ended up normal summoning Renaud so I can get Fireflint onto the field. And then his response is Flirtus. And then I special summon into the Fireflint lady. And then I remembered, oh wait, he has Mechaba. So he can negate twice with Flirtus and then Mechaba. So I was like, oh well, not only am I screwed, I'm screwed if I even had a good hand anyways. So yeah. And then he goes into the Schism to get Winda onto the field, which surprised me on it. I was surprised like why he didn't do that immediately, like especially when I first normal summoned into the Renaud. So of course he banishes the Shadals to get Winda onto the field, and then this is where I'm like, oh well, fuck, I'm kind of fucked here. Even if I go into the Two Tails, he's gonna negate it anyways. And I was like looking at his attack because I remember I have Royland in the hand or in the grave, so I was like, I can give the Noble Knight 500 more attack, but Two Tails of Noble has 1600 attack, so it only gives him to 21. I still can't beat over window with that. So I was like, oh well, I'm kind of screwed, aren't I? Still trying to think of something. I was like, I'll go into the two tails and then see if he negates it, which he ends up doing. Oh, and then I was thinking, do I activate the effect? And then I was like, screw it. I can't beat over Wind anyways. Let's see if he negates it, which he does not. Does not negate the top effect, but he does. So I ended up like, okay, I'll go add a Mortal Gear Field, even though I can't use it this turn. Maybe I can survive until next turn. And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh wait, I can't special summon. And I was like, oh, here. I was like thinking, I was like, well, I can't get Gear Field out, and then if I just leave my field how it is, he's going to OTK me. So I decide to surrender. So we go into the third match, which this is a ranked match, by the way. So everything's on the line in this. I was thinking of adding Infinite Appearance or Nibiru. I was like, Dark Roller no more really doesn't have an effect. So I was like, do I go Infinite? But I was like, but it kind of screws off the deck a little bit. So I was like, screw it. I'll just stick with what I have because I'm going first. And then this third match actually got really more competitive. The other two is just like, okay, one person got its negates onto the field, and then ended up screwing the other person. But in this match, it got really more competitive. So I got Neospace Connector into the Aqua Dolphin, and then discarded Divine Sword just to see what he has in the hand. Even if I can't get rid of it, it's always nice to see what he has in his hand. I see Dark Ruler, I see Dogmatika, I see Magical Meltdown, and then I saw Alistair. I was like, but my fucking Neospace is at 800 attack. So I was going to take the 500 life points because I can't get rid of any card. So I go into the two tails of the Noble Knights, knowing that he can't negate it anyways. So I was like, okay, I can get all my combo plays here without him negating. So I was like, okay, this match can go into my favor now. So I ended up sending Smoke Grenade and Drundle to get Gimba, and then just, of course, the combos. If you've seen my Infernoble Knight deck profile, which I'll link in the description below, you know the plays here. The Link Ross to go into a Tin Metal Marsher, and then get Gimba back onto the field pretty easily, and then just these combos pretty amazing. So I get Gimba back onto the field, and I'm going to go into the Kriston Halifax to get Plague Spreader out into the field. And then I go to a Tatsunaku play. And then, of course, I'm going to go into the Mechana Phantom-Beast Odorodon. I don't know what the hell I was thinking a little too much. I should have just went into Odorodon. And then, of course, I get the 3 tokens out onto the field. The level 3 tokens as well, which is pretty nice. Yeah, so... And then I go into, of course, the Coral Dragon using Tatsunaku and Spell Striker in the hand to go into that Coral Dragon. And then I go into the Coral Dragon into Charles. And then activate Coral Dragon to get that draw, which ended up being Heritage of the Chalice. And then I activate Plague Spreader from the grave to top deck, and then special summon him. And then I go into the Royland, of course. And then activate Royland during the main phase so I can get his end phase effect. And then go into the Borlode Savage Dragon to get his negations onto the field. And then I ended up equipping 2 Tails of the Noble Knight. And then I did not activate Charles. I go into the Heritage of the Chalice. I ended up not going into a Noble Knight monster. I actually ended up going into a equip spell. I ended up going for Drundle instead of a monster because I was like, I can't get that monster to like Ogre or Oliver. I can't get him to the grave this turn. So I'm like, well, we'll just add Drundle instead to get that 1 equip spell to equip it to Immortal Gear Field. And then, of course, now I go into the Immortal Gear Field. I'll banish Drundle in the graveyard. I'll make sure it doesn't get banished from the hand, but Drundle's effect, or not Drundle, Mortal Gear Field's effect has to be on the field or in the graveyard, so I can't even do that anyways. And then, of course, I go into the Captain Roy land in equipping to a Mortal Gear Field. And then I don't activate Charles here. I'm waiting for that end phase effect for him. And then I end up getting Divine Sword. I was like, well, Drundle was now worthless. I forgot Divine Sword in the fucking grave just to get him back into the hand. And of course, I equipped it to Charles to get him to 38, or not Charles, a Mortal Gear Field to get him to that 38 attack. And then I don't equip Drundle because the end phase I need 2 more spots to get Charles effect going. I equipped Smoke Grenade and then equipped Ogre from the deck to make him gain 500 attack, and then activate Charles' effect to destroy 1 card on the field, which is going to be Smoke Grenade, and then get rid of his hand. Then I immediately go for Dark Ruler no more, so you can't negate my field. And then here this is Royland's effect. I get to discard a equipped spell to add a warrior monster, which in this case I did Mortal Gear Field just in case if you wiped my board. I was like, okay, at least I have a backup plan. So here he activates Magical Meltdown. I was really thinking about negating him. I was like, do I negate him? But I didn't read the card fully. I was like, if he just adds Alistair, I'm not going to, I'm not going to negate it because I'm going to negate Alistair instead, right? So he actually ended up drawing Invocation in his hand. I forgot he already had Alistair. So he now has 2 Alistairs. And then his one draw during the draw phase ended up being Invocation. You'll see it later on. Because he summons Alistair, but he does not use his effect. He ends up setting it for the Salamangreat, and then the Salamangreat into the other Salamangreat. And then I kept bringing it more. I was like, oh, wait, I can't negate Invocation no more. Because I was thinking, like, oh, wow, he didn't activate Alistair. So I was like, that means he has the Invocation in the hand. And then, of course, he did. I was reading the card effect, the activation of your cards. And effects that includes a fusion summon of a fusion monster cannot be negated. I was like, well, I'm not going to waste a counter to negate Invocation if the field spell says I can't negate it. So I decided, screw it. And of course he goes through, and here's going to be a Mechaba. So the one play I probably should have negated was Magical Meltdown. But but it didn't really matter, because if I negated Magical Meltdown, he already had an Alistair in the hand anyways. So it didn't really matter. So he just ended up having a really good hand that I couldn't negate. And then he's going to special summon Equisius onto the field. The thing about Dueling Nexus is about when they do activate effect from hand, you only get to see the card for like 1 second. So I kind of forgot, was like, what's coming out onto the field? And then Aquilius is the one that comes out onto the field. Gets to add I think a Dogmatika card. And then I think he ends up adding Maximus or Flirtus. And it ended up being Flirtus. And then now I'm thinking, okay, what do I negate here? I have 2 negations. But the thing is, him adding Flirtus actually screws me into what happens later on in the game. But we'll go when it happens. I'll show it. So it activates Dogmenta Maximus. Now here I try to negate it. I was thinking of not negate it. I was like, wait, I barely have anything in my extra anyways. And he gets the add, which will probably be something good for his benefit. So I was like, I'll negate it. So I activate Borload. And then I knew he was going to activate Maximus. So I was like, I'm going to activate Gearfield to make sure he doesn't get Maximus onto the field. He ends up discarding. I'm like, nope, Gearfield, I'll destroy the Divine Sword. And then this is where Flirtus comes and screws me over. He negates Immortal Gearfield, so Borload ends up getting destroyed in this case. See, so here's the Flirtus. He's going to choose Immortal Gearfield, and Borload gets banished, actually, my bad. I forgot Mechaba is banished. And then here I'm like, oh, well, shit. And I knew that one last card was Alistair. I was like, well, he's an Alistair Mechaba into... So he's like, I was like, I get to keep one card, and then his two cards ended up being the I forgot what this fusion, the level 4 fusion is, but he gets to destroy a card. Now here I was like, you can't destroy Charles, so you have to go Gearfield here. His effects are negated anyways. So, but I guess he didn't read Ogier's effect when equipped. So he ends up choosing Charles here, which won't go through because Ogier's effect is the equipped monster cannot be destroyed by card effects, which Eldritch Entity Nest or does that, which he chose the wrong monster. He didn't read the equip card. So just to make sure you guys always read what the cards in their equip cards say. So here he's gonna go into the battle phase. He's going to attack with Mechafa against Charles, and then discard Alistair to get Mechafa to gain 1,000 attack and blow up Charles and Mechafa in the process. So now Mechafa's at 35, and then the discard. Now he's going to attack. And then I forgot when Pegasus was in the grave, and then he gets to shuffle Mortal Gearfield back into the hand, and then he ends up attacking Adoradon, and then I think I take 2,000 directly because of Floridus effect. And then I took 900 from that damage from Floridus against Adoradon. And then now here I'm like, damn, he just went through that whole negation. What do I do now? And then I was like, he has nothing in his hand. He can't negate anything. So I'm like, oh, I can easily just pull out Gearfield now. Then I'm just making sure he can't negate it while it's on the field, which he cannot. He has to be in the hand and then negate. So I activate Immortal Gearfield. I banish the equip Joust equip card, and then I start equipping Ogier and then Royland to Immortal Gearfield. And no. And then here, of course, I activate Divine Sword as well. Again, banish 2 warriors to add it to your hand, just so I can get Immortal Gearfield with more attack. Because I was like, Floridus' effect is going to increase his attack, I think. So I was like, make sure Immortal Gearfield can still beat over Floridus. And then here, I'm like, okay, I'm going to activate Drundle to add a card, but I was like, what card do I add then? So I ended up equipping it. It was like, well, it's good to have him equipped anyways to make sure Immortal Gearfield has another equip card. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to activate it. I'm going to add, just kind of thinking. Now, I was thinking between Oliver and Ogier. I ended up adding Ogier to the hand. I should have added Oliver because the play was me getting another 2 Tales of a Noble Knight, and having Oliver in the grave could have equipped Oliver to make sure Immortal Gearfield didn't get targeted. But I didn't think that thoroughly, and I ended up adding Ogier. But the thing is, with Ogier, since he shuffled my Immortal Gearfield his last turn, I was able to discard Immortal Gearfield, hit my other copy of Immortal Gearfield, and then special summon Renaud to get Gearfield back into my hand. And then here I'm like, okay, I'm going to special summon. I was like, oh shit, that's the problem. The thing about having not that many extra deck cards, I was trying to go into an Access Code Talker, but I couldn't get as many monsters onto the field to pull them off. But here I'm just trying to think, I'm like, can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? I ended up going to the 2 Tales of a Noble Knight, and then activating effect to add a card. I ended up adding, Spell Striker anyways. Yeah, I ended up adding Spell Striker, and then I activated the bottom effect. I actually ended up only having 2 equip cards left in my deck, so that was kind of lucky. Got TG Striker onto the field. And then I was thinking, I can't go into the Access Code Talker because I have to get rid of Immortal Gearfield to do it. So I was like, well, that kind of screws me. I can't get one. I was trying to think, can I get one more monster out into the field? I was looking through my graveyard, and the sad fact was I couldn't. So I was like, I'm kind of stuck here. So I think I ended up special summoning. I think I left the field how it was. I was like, okay, I can't activate Gearfield one more time because he's only once per turn effect. So I just ended up going to the battle phase. So I attacked Flirtus, and then ended up equipping. The good thing about Morgirfield, I ended up equipping his Maximus, the defense card, to him. He gains 500 attack for it, I think. Yeah, and then he took 13. I was like, I can't activate. I can't beat over Exquisius with Two Tails of Noble Knight. So here I'm like, well, dude, what do I do? I was like, okay, I'll just go into the end phase, and because he has no cards. This one card he drew, I guess it was not good, because he actually ends up surrendering here. So I actually ended up winning. That was kind of a pretty intense third match. He got through my negation board. So yeah, hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.